The last month I replaced my 25Nm Simucube Pro beast with that little cute device to find out if those entry-level direct drive wheels really worth their existence. Moza asked me if I want to test and review their little model, the R9, in combination with the GS, and as I received so many requests from the other videos about the direct drive wheels we tested here, from the entire Simucube line to the Fanatec DD1 and DD2 to Simagic and OSW, I had to agree, even if that is a very important period for me and my preparation for the next championship, as right now every little detail really matters. Because when I race seriously, I'm really competitive person, much more competitive than I personally wish. So that won't be proper review, but perspective from a driver who mostly care about poor performance, and I will try to compare that from my Simucube Pro experience. And as you know, Simucube delivered the best direct drive bases on the market, so let's find out what is going on here. First important question I have in mind is, can that little base deliver the right information as quick as possible to let me understand the behavior of the car on each track I'm gonna race? What I mean by that, I really need to feel every little hidden bump on the road which I can't see with my naked eye. I need to feel the different camber of the road, and I really need to understand why my car behave and slide or lock tires under braking, so I can quickly adjust my braking points, my turning points, and have full control of my trail braking. Because as most of you, I have to work hard for my food, and I have very limited time for my sim racing and content creations hobbies, so I really want to have equipment which can help me save time and enjoy my experience, and Simucube gives me exactly that. I can hit my best times within 30 minutes, but is it even possible something more than 3 times cheaper with around 3 times less power achieve those results? If somebody told me that little device can cover more than 90% of my personal needs, there is no chance I could believe that, but I was going to be wrong. The first thing that really surprised me was the way that R9 delivered the feedback. Just quickly reading the software with the full explanation of each setting. With little common sense, I pulled the sliders left and right, and on my first ride, my initial thought were, whoa, that is like Simucube. Forget about the power. I talk about the way the tires read the road with all the little bumps, and the way the feedback feels loading the tires into the corners, and how clean I can feel the limit of the grip. Once I pass beyond the limits and create that slip angle of the tires, the wheel goes soft and I can instantly correct my input. All that information felt exactly with the speed my brain is used to from my Simucube. Now, keep in mind, those are my personal feelings and not scientific numbers, but I used to believe I have quite good feel for that, as I can clearly see the difference in speed of my Simucube base when I pump up the reconstruction filter. I really believe I have good sense for that, but because I'm always very suspicious, I asked a friend who drives on the small DD but is in love with my Simucube and have spent hundreds of hours on my rig to give a little drive on the R9, and without even telling my opinion to not influence his expectations, his instant reaction was, that is Simucube. Still, keep in mind, my personal philosophy about force feedback is all about speed. I always turn down as much as I can the filters like friction and dumping to let the force feedback as free as possible and not fight those artificial forces. I want the grip to load the feedback, but those settings can be noisy and create some oscillation if I left the wheel, which I never do. But if I crash and lose the wheel, that is different story and can be really dangerous. The advantages of those settings are very beneficial for me, as I can instantly feel the behavior of the chassis and the tires and instantly correct my inputs. If you are one of those drivers who prefer super smooth and safe experience, you can load some damping and friction, turn up the smoothness, interpolation, reconstruction filter, and you are good to go. But keep in mind, those filters slow down the reaction time of the force feedback, and you will start driving mostly on muscle memory and prediction instead of real-time feeling. That being said, I'm really excited to say from my perspective that this little tiny cute device is like a little Simucube, but are those 9 Nm really enough? I found in iRacing, for example, if I turn up all to the maximum at 9 Nm, the clipping bar of the force feedback is constantly red and there is no room for useful information, particularly when I load the tires into the corner. Remember I explained when I turn and go beyond the limits of the grip and put the tires into that slip angle, when the force feedback clips and that bar go in red, I don't feel those limits that clear anymore. I had to go down in iRacing strength to around 80% till I start feeling that information again. That means only 6-7 Nm peaks are useful, but don't take that wrong. If I limit my Simucube to 9 Nm, creates absolutely the same effect. It's not that particular motor problem, but probably the way iRacing deliver the feedback. Are those 6-7 Nm torque enough for my personal needs? Again, I was surprised with myself. I usually practice with my Simucube on bit high torques when I turn on new track just to feel quickly the road and the car, and then turn down once I'm up to speed. I have to say in most cases I was happy enough with the strength of that base through that GS wheel, but I can't report how it feels with other steering wheels. With this one was mostly fine, with exception of one car, the McLaren GT4, which felt a little bit light for my like, but I'm going to blame iRacing for that, not the base itself. So, after 4 weeks of hard use, I'm really impressed, and in that normal use case scenario, I never really missed my Simucube and I didn't see that coming. Honestly, I have no idea how they achieved that. But before you get super excited, there is something that really concerns me. That base is getting really warm. There is no active cooling, which make it very quiet in use, but in comparison with the Simucube, which barely change any temperature of the body, the R9 is getting really hot. Now, even on the Fuji track where the base is under constant pressure, I never felt any loss of performance, and I guess the shape of the body creates good passive cooling. But I'm curious to know if some of you who already have that base experience some overheating problems ever, because in my case till now works absolutely fine. I think I'm gonna keep it on my rig for the next 2 months and really push it hard to see if we'll ever create any overheating issue, and boy, if don't, I will be in love with this little cute device. That being said, let's talk a little bit about that Formula style GS steering wheel. The aesthetic point of view, I will let it to you, as that is absolutely subjective anyway. That shape works perfectly for my case right now, as I want to take the maximum of the GT4 cars. I can see the dash perfectly, and the rev lights of the wheel helps when I switch to different GT4 cars in the beginning till I get used to and start shifting with the engine sound. I've heard many complaints about the shifter sound, which came mostly from Fanatec users who are used to those super silent Fanatec shifters. Honestly, having 5-6 different shifters on my other wheels from top brands like SSRG, SimRacing Machine, Asher, Rosso SimRacing and so on, those are not much more noisy than that. And with the provided little rubber, they become something in between Fanatec and those high-end brands. Once we apply the rubber, they become a little bit shorter, which I personally prefer, and that is double win for me. Another complaint I see very often is about the push buttons. They have deep movement without really that positive click, but I will try to put that in perspective. I have many different buttons on my wheels here, and some I really love, as those here on the Bentley with very stiff feel and positive feedback, which I can clearly feel through my gloves, to some like Fanatec, which are very floppy from their mid-range wheels. Fanatec have the best shifters the sim racing market have ever seen, but their buttons are far from great. Those here I will rate somewhere in the middle, as they may not have that positive click, but I can feel them clearly through my gloves, and I know exactly how many times I click, and I never miss input. So I won't complain really, as that deep movement gives me quite good feedback. One thing I really like is the backlight, which we can set to different colors and match our personal preferences, and as you can see, I am obsessed with lighting around this cockpit, so I really enjoy those no matter day or night conditions. The aluminum knobs on the rotary encoders are absolutely awesome and they really feel as they look. One of the best I have around. The thumb encoders are also aluminum and have just the right amount of stiffness and pushable as well. Two joysticks as well, which I personally never use, but if you are good with that, you can navigate different things around your menu. The grips with that plastic edge are not really comfortable with bare hands, but with gloves they are absolutely fine, and they are dressed in Alcantara, which is very different from the suede material most of the racing wheels use on the market. The suede is actually leather and this one is synthetic material. The Alcantara is actually a bit more expensive, and the main advantage is we can wash with soap without destroying the material instead of the suit, which will get dry and harsh to use if we apply soap or even water. Aluminum pedal shifters with carbon plates, which works with photoelectric sensors, and as I've said before, they feel great to me. Two clutch pedals, which can be set as single or dual clutch system, independent button or axis through the software. Plastic backplate and that energy style quick release, which is probably the most high rated from the sim racing community for a reason. Rev lights, which we can control through the software, and 5mm thick carbon plate, which make it really strong, and that must be the most input loaded Formula style rim on the market under 500 euro. Is this Simucube? No, it's not. With SC2 I can experience some crazy forces, and I have it for more than 3 years with zero problems. I have put my head for those bases and I suggested them to everyone who can afford them, but in the last 4 weeks I never felt the need to switch back to my Simucube, even if I prepare really hard for important championship. With the R9 I can really feel every important information I need to understand the behavior of the car through that force feedback. All the little bumps, positive or negative camber on the road, in general the limits of the car to be precise, of my trail braking, weight transfer, everything I need to really stay on my personal limits. Honestly, I'm really surprised to see I can get almost the same experience and be equally fast with equipment 3 times cheaper than mine. Absolutely blast for the community. The quality also looks absolutely awesome for those prices, and if Moza have good customer services, I can see they winning the sim racer heart. Of course, all that is single perspective, that is my own experience, and please guys, if you have any experience with those, good or bad, please let them in the comment section below and help others really create better picture. Because I'm Bulgarian and we are suspicious by nature, and that here is too good to be true, I will keep it on my rig in the next few months and test it to the limit. And that being said, it's time to drive.